this month's research forum organized by the Department of Comparative Literature and India Studies, EFL University, Hyderabad. Today's speaker is Nisha Chetri. She is a 24-year-old student currently pursuing an MA in Comparative Literature from the Center for Comparative Literature, University of Hyderabad. Um, I welcome Nisha now.
Has she been
Nisha?
has she been able to join?
Yeah, she's joined, but I think I'll have to share the PPT.
Yeah, okay.
Nisha,
I think she's muted.
you're on mute.
Am I audible now? Okay. So good evening, everyone. I had a bit of a problem with my whole setup, but now I hope it's okay. And I would like to request Anupama to present the my PPT. And in the meantime, I'll just turn off my video. Yeah, so I will start now. In case I become inaudible, I hope Anupama can let me know and then I can just fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start. So my presentation today deals with an internet phenomenon that has completely suffused cyberspace and that of which I have been an active consumer and spectator. So this phenomenon is called girl blogging. And although the origins of this particular digital phenomenon can be traced back to the internet practice of personal blogging by women on various social media or blogging platforms, which gained much popularity post 1990s, girl blogging as an internet activity has undergone much transformation to take shape and manifest itself in today's digital culture in the form of memetic texts or just simply memes. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so in the first slide, as you see, it says girl blogging or girl posting. So, like, these two terms can be interchangeably used, but I prefer to use girl blogging, and that is what I'll be referring to this as. So, what is girl blogging all about? Can I have the slide change to number 3? Can I have the slide change to number 3? No, yeah, this one, yeah. So, girl blogging, in its most simplest sense, is the practice of having and maintaining a personal blog on the internet, which is being undertaken by young women, in which they self publish, which is to post text based or audiovisual content that are autobiographical in nature. It is an online activity carried out on social media platforms. To attempt at defining or charting this digital phenomenon is to start a metaphorical nuclear fission reaction. The definition may begin as something so deceivingly simple, as in girls using digital blogging platforms like an online diary, or the act of keeping, maintaining, and updating a digital diary by a young woman, which anyone can read. But at every subsequent level of defining it, it fissions into particularities like a mycelial network, and nuances at every level of defining it crop up. The phenomenon shifts farther and farther from being just an online activity and transforms into a post human activity that calls for a literary, sociopolitical, and philosophical inquiry. So, what girl blogging is basically all about is these women, they articulate their personal life experiences, their emotions, and the turmoil as well as the joy of existing as girls in the world through the memes that they create, and the entire process that goes into this, which is the creating of the memes, the posting, and the sharing of it, and connecting with people who view their content, is termed as girl blogging. The cyberspace offers itself up to them as a vast digital canvas or a digital diary where they, through these self created memes with comparatively less restraint than the real physical world, are able to express their female subjectivity in a manner that is subversive and transgressive to the dominant mainstream narratives of femininity or narratives of what being a girl means. These memes constitute highly confessional subject matter which are emotionally and psychologically charged, and the memes are aestheticized by the female creators in ways which makes them distinctly identifiable as their work. In these memes, the women who make these memes, they themselves are the subjects that they write about and create these memes about. So, girl blogging becomes an act of intricate introspection, the gaze that they are perpetually subjected to in the real world, having turned them into human panopticons of themselves, also has them constantly monitoring themselves within. They strip their inner selves through a mentally and emotionally intricate procedure to verbalize their subjective experiences. They become They become watchers and critics of their own selves, and the knowledge that arises out of this introspective act contributes to the material they then will materialize into humorous memes on the various social media platforms that are available to them. Can you change the slide to the next one? Hello, can you change the slide? Yeah. So, like, here are some examples of the memes which girl blogging constitutes, and there are many that we can find all over the internet, but due to the time crunch and everything, I just have a few here displayed. And to move further with this presentation, a meme, as we know, is a new media form. It is a digital visual medium that conveys an idea or a narrative, whether it be humorous, satirical, political, or just plain entertaining, through a complex and creative blend of text and image. To borrow Roland Barthes' concept from his book Mythologies, one of the ways to read these memes can be to see them as operating as myths. They contain denotative and connotative meaning. Since the meme form is intertextual in nature, the meanings that can be derived out of it are multiple. Meaning is created when the text and the intentional use of imagery or visuals work together. One of the many things that is conveyed through these girl blogging memes is the discomfort or the turmoil that these women go through as they find themselves at the receiving end of the conventional gender roles that they are subjected to and are expected to fulfill. For example, the first meme that is currently shown in the slide, which says, uh, girls trapped in when they are a child trapped in a woman's body versus when they grow up to be a woman and then they find themselves trapped in a child's body. I'm not sure if the meme is clear, but I hope you can see it. So, in that meme, the visual imagery uses unrealistically hyperbolic to emphasize the intensity of their experiences. As young girls, they are imposed with moral codes and guidelines to be a certain way, to act a certain way. All of this control and surveillance on who they should be, the do's and don'ts uh, laid out for them, the expectations put on them to grow up and take on responsibilities and emulate more mature womanly qualities are internalized, so that even as young girls, they are expected to embody certain notions of maturity. And the naivete, the innocence, the playfulness of their childhood is lost and replaced by all these rules. So as they grow old, there comes this realization, a longing for their lost girlhood, and all these feelings that emerge from this experience is conveyed through this meme. Can I have the slide changed? Yeah, these are more examples. If we could focus on the third meme, which says, "What do you mean? Of course, I'm having fun. I love being a girl." So the image clearly shows that it's not fun, and the text appears as ironic. what they really mean is that it's not really fun being a girl. The discomfort and dissonance that comes from being made to fit into the mold created by society, and what it means to be bombarded with society's construction of who they should be, and their responses to these and the responses to these rules is conveyed through the meme. Uh, if I if I could have the slide changed to the next one, yeah. Yeah, this was the meme that I just sort of analyzed. The next one, yeah. So here is another example. So this is another example of the girl blogging meme. So here we see a picture of a Blythe doll, on top of which the text reads, "Blessed with beauty and rage." The juxtaposition of the doll, a cultural product seemingly so trivial that is associated with and representative of the experiences of girlhood, with philosophically dense words like beauty and rage, communicates a message that is instantly comprehended by the young women who view this media. It speaks to the female experience where beauty as an ideal haunts them at every waking stage of life, and rage as an emotion to be felt and channeled is highly unwelcomed and unlicensed for them. And the presence of both beauty and rage and its ramifications in a woman's life is nowhere near a blessing. Blessed with beauty and rage becomes an ironic statement. The use of irony in a seemingly simplistic form of a meme effectively communicates the incongruity between beauty or rage as appearing to be a blessing when in reality they are a curse. The meme thus speaks to this universal experience of girlhood, which the female audience who consume this media identify with and relate to. Hence, we see that seemingly frivolous and humorous, as seemingly frivolous and humorous these memes seem, a critical engagement and a deeper look within reveals that it is packed with the politics of subjective female experiences. Can I have the slide changed? Yeah, so this is another excerpt from a girl blogger who goes by the username at the rate rural isolation shorty on Instagram. And all of the memes that I have been illustrating as examples, they are all available on Instagram. They've all been posted on Instagram. So the primary sources that I'm using are all derived from Instagram. However, they are also shared extensively to other social media platforms as well. But originally, they have been posted on Instagram. So in this was also actually a form. This was actually a meme, but the text is quite a lot, and it would be difficult to read. So I kind of turned it into a quote like thing, and then I just like made it into a slide. So it reads. So I'll read what the text says. It says, "I use the internet like a living kinetic diary. I still do. The internet was a place no one could find me. I didn't fear my teachers getting on Twitter or my parents scrolling my Tumblr like I feared my diaries being read. I didn't fear being singled out and publicly ridiculed. My love of the internet wasn't that I could be anyone I wanted, it was that I could be myself without the complications. I have always loved the internet for its separateness from real life. It was a diary I could step into, and other people did the same. The way people typed is the way people spoke when no one was around." And this is just a quote, but the meme form of it shows the girl blogger herself. Like it's like a collage type of thing where the girl blogger, it's like she has taken a selfie with her laptop, and then it is alongside there is this block of text which reads what I have just read. And the meme clearly denotes that the subject is in a closed room, perhaps alone, with the laptop webcam operating in front of her. It exhibits a scene of voluntary isolation and seclusion in part of the subject. But a look at this from a greater perspective shows that although girl blogging is an isolatory activity, the girl blogger is still connected to the entire world, both virtual and real, through the little screen in front of her. The boundary between the private and the public becomes blurred. The girl who is blogging is at once anonymous, a real life existence screened by the screen in front of her. She gets to choose what aspects of her life she wishes to display and up to what extent. But the same screen also connects her to the world at large, thus making her hyper visible. Joanna Walsh, in her book Girl Online, a user manual, expresses a similar thought. In the book, she writes, and I quote, "But as screens become smaller, they crossed into private space. Television that become laptops, and then laptops are replaced by phones until every housewife's carried one. And right at that moment, something about the division between the public and the private split." So, what Joanna Walsh in her book Girl Online she talks about is like she uses the metaphor of a mirror of Alice from Alice in Wonderland, her looking glass. She compares that to the screen that we use, like our phone screen, our laptop screen, in which she makes the comparison that how Alice enters Wonderland through the looking glass. Similarly, we also kind of enter into a different hyperreal world through the screens that is in front of her. So I really like that. I really like that metaphor, and something similar is at works in this phenomenon as well. So, girl blogging is the online expression of the experiences of girlhood. It is the utilization of social media platforms such as Instagram, like a living kinetic diary, as the quote that I recently read says. It is a means for the young woman, the girl, to confess to the world, to an audience, their psychologically charged interiorities that do not find effective and cathartic expression in real life. And if there is any girlhood experience that is universal, it is that of surveillance, the constant feeling of being watched by external patriarchal structures and its propagators. Girls growing up are constantly monitored and policed. The imposition of moral codes, guidelines to be exist and act in a certain way, the societal expectations to emulate mature and womanly qualities that I've already mentioned. Uh, they are bombarded with all of these expectations, so much so that the watchful gaze is internalized and it doesn't quite leave their bodies even as they grow older. John Berger, in his BBC television series, which was turned into a book titled Ways of Seeing, also wrote something similar. He wrote that to be born a woman has to be born a woman has to be born within an allotted and confined space into the keeping of men. He writes, and I quote, "The social presence of women has developed as a result of their ingenuity in living under such tutelage within such a limited space. But this has been at the cost of a woman's self being split into two. A woman must continually watch herself. She is almost continually accompanied by her own image of herself. Whilst she is walking across a room or whilst she is weeping at the death of her father, she can scarcely avoid envisaging herself walking or weeping. From earliest childhood, she has been taught and persuaded to survey herself continually, and so she comes to consider the surveyor and the surveyed within her as the two constituent yet always distinct elements of her identity as a woman." End quote. And Margaret Atwood, in her novel The Robber Bride, also writes something similar. And I quote, she says, "You are a woman with a man inside watching a woman. You are your own voyeur." Now, can I have the slide changed? Yeah, so this is the meme that connects the title of my presentation, which says "Girl Blogging, a creature feminine on the internet." And when I came across this meme, it also kind of led me into this idea to like explore this whole topic of creature feminine and what is it about, and like how the what these memes are trying to say, and like how do I connect these memes or the whole act of girl blogging with what a creature feminine is all about. So these girl bloggers seem to be referring to their memes as a creature feminine, um, and this is where Ellen Siksu comes in with her theorization of creature feminine, which, when we translate into English, becomes feminine writing. Feminine writing is a new insurgent form of writing that she introduced in her 1975 essay titled The Laugh of the Medusa. Oh, can I have the slide changed? Yeah, so these are some of the comments under this meme where viewers and fellow girl bloggers also seem to be agreeing to the fact that these memes are a creature feminine, and like, how is it a creature feminine? I will be trying to argue for it in the next few minutes. So can I have the slide changed? Yeah, and this is the excerpt from the essay by Ellen Sixu called "The Laugh of the Medusa," where she basically introduces this idea or this concept of a creature feminine. So, in the essay, she builds an argument for a new style of insurgent writing, which women should adopt in their writerly pursuits. Drawing from Jacques Lacan's idea that the structure of the language is centered by the phallus, Sisu argues that the subject position of woman or the feminine is on the margins of the symbolic being the social world of linguistic communication, intersubjective relations, with knowledge of ideological conventions and law and other things like that. So, this marginal position that women are relegated to makes them less controllable by the phallus, is what Sisu says in her essay. In Freudian and Lacanian psychoanalysis, a woman is constituted by and as lack, because they lack a penis, due to which the female unconscious is less repressed, less radically separated from the conscious, since castration is already done. Building on to that, Sisu argues that woman has always been in a position of otherness and alterity in Western phallogocentric culture. And also using Derrida's idea of play, Sisu notes that woman is decentered and therefore freer to move and create. It is this decenteredness that Sisu urges her women readers and writers to connect to and channel unabashedly into writing about themselves. So, feminine writing, in her conceptualization, is a disruptive and deconstructive force, shaking the security, the stability of the phallogocentric symbolic order. And this new insurgent writing will allow the woman to inscribe her selfhood in a phallocentric world, which the writing that she calls a creature feminine, which for Sisu is not only antithetical to phallogocentrism, but also surpasses the limitations imposed by this very masculinist language system. And reading the essay and everything, a very basic my understanding is that literature feminine is to let women freely express themselves in newer forms of communication, uh, and newer forms of communication that they themselves can create, or like being experimental with language and language forms, and expressing themselves through that, instead of adhering to the phallogocentrism that Sisu talks about, where the language structure has to be very linear and very uh, prosaic and all of that. Sisu kind of says that feminine writing is characterized by a mix of poetic writing and non-linearity, a stream of consciousness style type of writing, also with lots of fragmentation and breaks and stuff in between. And this is where I came across a question: is if we can read these girl blogger memes as an example of feminine writing. And I think yes, because it is definitely not a language structure or a communication system that is very traditional and conventional, in the sense that it is not it's not the language system that we conventionally use, right? It is this very creative, it's almost like a hybrid text, where images and writing is coming together, and there is this sense of playfulness attached to it, and which is all used to express the female experience. uh, and can the slide be changed? Yeah, so here is another example. Um, so in this, it's quite a long text. I mean, long meme. But yeah, before I say that, I just want to wait. Yeah. So this figure is by a girl blogger, and she goes by the username Personate World. And in this meme, we find the articulation of the awareness of the incompetence of language in expressing the way the woman or the girl or the person who created this meme, the way she feels. So language is phallogocentric, a male constituted or male dominant, as Jacques Derrida established. And a French feminist writer that I refer to, Sisu, she decried. And this meme itself alludes to Sisu's idea of écriture féminine. Uh, here, as we can see, the experience. So, like, yeah, the experience of the indecipherable feelings that this meme is kind of articulating, the feelings that she conveys through the meme is not that she's not being able to express in the phallogocentric language, only finds expression through forms that intentionally defy signification. The implication here is a feeling that the implication here is a feeling is not feeling but like an awareness that how the language that we are normally trained to use, how it becomes incapable of expressing this female experience. And I don't know if this female experience is universal, but here she says like the way I feel isn't logical, and so I can't find a way to make it legible through language. I love Siksu because she aims to break the unspoken code that language must be used to define and clarify. The only time I see my illegible feelings reflected back to me is through abstraction, forms that intentionally defy signification. Is this what it means to be crazy, to feel alienated by rational forms? Sisu says this is what it means to be a woman, but I know plenty of rational women who would disagree. Also, so there is this experience, right? The female experience of the conventional language not being able to express the illogical or the irrationality that the person is feeling, and that can only be expressed through abstraction or forms that intentionally define signification. And she manages to articulate this feeling of being alienated from the masculinist rationality that is particularly a gendered experience, and in doing so connects herself with all the women, thus nurturing solidarity and community. Hazel B. Stokes, who is a new media scholar, referring to these girl blogger memes, write that they create a distinctly gendered affective experience. These girl blogs have a large following. The memes are shared extensively, and Noble and Langsher, who are also new media theorists and critics, they have come to the conclusion that memes succeed or are shared extensively when a sense of affinity and relatability is achieved. The consumers of this media recognize the pop culture references present in the memes that creates a shared experience of meaning making. So far, there in the memes that we previously saw, there is this constant use of very specific pop cultural references, and the references that is used, the intertextuality that we see in them also shows us the socio-political and the economic backgrounds that these women come from, and the level of media literacy that they have, or just literacy in general that they possess, and also the type of audience it caters to. Can the slide be changed? Like this, for example. This is one such meme which is sort of creating a solidarity among the girl bloggers and their audience by using these four pop culture figures, Bjork, Grimes, Shakira, and Kelly Uchis, looking quite pleased as they're on their computers. For someone to understand the message behind this meme, they not only have to be in a position they not only have to be in a position where they have access to the internet, but also access to the work of these celebrities. So Hazel B. Stokes, she writes, and I quote, "The female experience that is represented in these memes requires appropriate knowledge of the meme culture themselves in addition to understanding a particular feminized subjectivity produced within and through digital spaces. End quote. The experiences of these women that do not find an appropriate or acceptable outlet so gets channeled into this satirical and humorous celebration of their own messy emotions. They reclaim the negative labels given by the patriarchal society as a kind of self-aware irony. Can I have the slide changed? Yeah, so this is the quote that I referred to earlier. Um, Here also, this to further analyze this meme, we can also it also helps us to try and understand the space of the digital or the internet itself, which we can call it as cyberspace, which is this dimensionless non-space. And to borrow Baudrillard's terms, it can also be referred to as a hyperreal space, which in this case operates as a refuge for these women. The code clearly shows that the user sees that niche cyberspace as a hiding place that they resort to escape the immediate surveillance in the physical world that these women are perpetually subjected to. And this is where the paradox lies. These women who create these memes either choose to stay anonymous or create a persona, or sometimes they choose to remain identifiable as well. Can I have the slide changed? Yeah. So when a person is using the internet or is on the internet, they are both hyper visible as well as anonymous. And it is this duality that seems to work in favor of these women who want to express themselves freely on the internet. So on the internet, you can be anything, but even more importantly, you can just be yourself without the consequences and the ramifications that you are subjected to in real life. Even though they maintain an anonymous identity, one can still gauge their sociopolitical and economic positionality in the society from their usage of certain visual media tropes or references that are made to certain literary figures. Can I have the slides changed? Yeah, so these are some more examples of the memes, the girl blogging memes or the girl blogger memes. As we can see, it says Plathian girlfriend, Hegelian girlfriend, Kafkaian girlfriend, and the logic or the not the logic, but like what these memes kind of denote is like the characteristics that a Plathian girlfriend would have, or a Hegelian girlfriend would have, or a Kafkaian girlfriend would have. And for anyone to understand these memes, they would have to know about like Plath and Hegel and all. So like this kind of shows the um, the literacy that these meme makers come with, or like they possess, and also the audience that they cater to. Through this creative articulation of their subjectivity and everything that entails in this digital space, the personal becomes something that is universally experienced by women coming from similar class and socio-political milieus. The comment section of these posts are filled with such remarks of women exclaiming that they feel seen or heard or understood, what they may have felt but not have the space and the vocabulary to articulate has been done by these female meme creators. The personal of these writers, the I that they keep writing about, becomes a universal we or us, and even then, this universal is just a particular universal and not an all encompassing one. This is the digital experience that leads to the creation of a virtual community around this particular form of digital media. This creation of a niche digital space in one corner of the internet, a niche yet connected to other virtualities by virtue of the interconnectedness of the internet, and to operate that space by utilizing a completely new form of digital literary self expression is my understanding so far about the écriture feminine on the internet. And this phenomenon in question is a transgressive act by women and the marginalized alike, for whom literary spaces and physical spaces in general has historically not held much space. Can the slides be changed? Yeah, so far I have been referring to girl bloggers and their content emerging from America or like from the West, but even from South Asia, South Asian countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, there has been a rise of women creating these kind of content. For example, the screenshot shows how it says 22 rupees, and then in the next slide, can I have the slide changed? Like this scandalisms, they are all South Asian women, and the content that they create is very much similar to the content the American women are creating, and there is the influences, like we can directly see the influence, like a similar pop cultural references are made, similar sort of feelings or like experiences are articulated, but there is also a slight difference is that south these memes that are created by these South Asian women, they there is some mention or some articulation of their local home politics as well and their relationship with it. However, the like explicitly political sort of content is very much missing in the content created by the American meme meme creators, and even if it's not explicitly political in the sense that it doesn't um, talk about the politics that is happening, uh, it's still like a it's there is still like personal articulation, right? There is still this articulation and conveying of personal experiences, and that itself becomes political. So like, can I have the slide changed? Yeah. Can I have the slide changed to the next one? Yeah, so as of now, I have just started to look into these memes and like try to analyze them further. And even though this girl blogging is like such a huge umbrella term, and it doesn't just encompass memes like these, it also encompasses like blog posts and online essays that these women write, or it can even take the form of captions on Instagram posts. Like, it just has to be uh, the content just has to be like very personal, and like something that you would write in your diary. But here, instead of it being in a traditional diary like setup, it's an online diary which everyone can read. So, and this particular my focus is particular on memes. So referring to the wider digital culture of internet memes, Limor Schiffman, who is a meme theorist, she writes in her book called Memes in Digital Culture, and I quote, she says, she writes, "We are in an era driven by a hyper mimetic logic. Every major public event sprouts a stream of memes, and they shape and reflect general social mindsets. So we make memes, but the memes we make also very much informs us and creates us. We are currently in an era where our dependence on technology and its multiple manifestation informs our everyday life so much so that it has turned us into a form of cyborg, where there is this hyper dependence on technology." And yeah, so like, I would pretty much conclude my presentation here, but I would just like to mention one more thing, a slight development that I have made in my research process with all of this, and it is that there is this theory that I recently came across, and it's called auto theory, and it's like a post 1960s kind of uh, literary movement or literary practice where what the writers do is they kind of mix the personal with the theoretical, like autobiographical writings. They're like writing about themselves and kind of engaging that sort of a self-reflective act with theory and criticism and philosophy. So I see, so like, if that is what is auto theory, I also see like an example, or like or like a sort of an auto theoretical practice that is happening in this girl blogging phenomenon or in this girl blogging content. So that is also something that I'm exploring. And yeah, I'm sorry if this presentation seemed very like not coherent or like comprehensive, and like so many ideas coming in between here and there, but I'm trying to figure out this, and like I'm working on this also. So any form of input or suggestions are welcome. And with that being said, I would like to end my presentation and thank Anupama and the FLU team for giving me this opportunity. So thank you.
All those people who are using emojis to express their views can actually speak, I think. Though it's very adequate to use all of this stuff when she was just talking about technological whatever. But everybody has a voice, and we are willing to hear all of these voices. It's a little eerie to have things floating around the screen. I mean, maybe because I'm old. Yeah, you can do that too. I mean, you can express your appreciation also in the chat box using words because, we happen to be a literature department. Well, I have nothing against the images though, except that they don't really. I mean, we've had this long conversation about whether emojis express any emotions really. Well, since no one seems to be wanting to either ask a question or, and everybody seems to be wanting to put up emojis, and I don't want to put up emojis. So I'll ask a question. Okay, Nisha. Okay, there is a question. Great. Fine.
No, it's okay. So, hi Trisha. You are asking if such readings of memes can be esoteric and perhaps limited to a certain niche of audience, or it can also be educational, especially when we refer to thinkers like Hegel. Uh, these memes are definitely, they aren't esoteric, but they're definitely catering to the content is definitely niche, but also kind of general, like especially the Hegelian girlfriend memes that specifically refer to thinkers like Hegel. Like those are obviously niche, and like only um, people who are aware of Hegel can understand it, right? But then there are other memes that I refer to also, which kind of speak to like a general experience of being a woman. So, yeah, I mean, they can be educational as well. I mean, when one comes across like, this is a very personal experience of mine where, like, coming across such memes would make me curious to know who Hegel is and, like, what is the connection being made to the characteristics that Hegel has or whatever he writes about, and how they are relating that to a person, and what is this Hegelian girlfriend and what characteristics that does she exhibit So like, I think those memes can also kind of make you want to know about those things, which happens to me a lot. Like whenever I see all these very uh, references that references to people and thinkers or to any media that I don't know, it makes me want to google that and like to understand the connection, so that it can be educational as well. So apart from being entertaining for those who already understand it. So yeah. Also, thank you to Shreya and Orotrika for your kind comments. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask if you thought there was something called feminine writing. I mean, never mind what the theorists say, but do you think it exists?
About feminine writing, and this was the like when I was reading the essay by the theorist, this was also one question that like kept going. It felt very essentialist, to be honest. And she keeps explicitly referring to women and feminine body and female sexuality, but then later she also revised it to for it to be more like inclusive of other gender identities. But I think for me, feminine writing, uh, maybe it like I don't know if it can exist, but I think like I think by feminine writing, what Sisu was trying to say is that it is this very non-linear, poetic, and very disruptive or like fragmentative sort of writing, right? And when I was reading into it, um, like examples of Clarice Lispector or Emily Dickinson and Sylvia Plath and all of them, um, they were like their writing styles have also been termed as écriture feminine, but I haven't gone beyond that and asked myself if I think that there is a feminine writing. But since you have mentioned it, I will definitely think about it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing, and that is I think that in the meme itself, the word was not seriously used. It was a joke. That's what I think. I mean, from that's the way I'm reading it. And the reason why I'm reading it is exactly what you said. That all that Siksu says about writing per se is essentialist because of the fact that she's universalizing a particular way of writing to all women. She could very well be talking about James Joyce, which is fragmented and blah blah, but very carefully crafted so that it appears fragmented.
Yeah,
So,
and
hmm.
and in the essay she also, which is interesting, is that in her essay she doesn't give examples of feminine writing being written by women. Like she gives examples of James Joyce and Jean Genet and other male writers who she says like their writing style encapsulates this idea of feminine writing. But then later readers of this essay and critics and who wanted to like kind of spot this écriture feminine uh, style kind of came up with this came up with this recognition of Lispector and yeah, and like yeah, all the stream of consciousness style of writing, and they kind of attributed that to that.
Yeah, agreed. So they were trying to fit people into the theory. And what the reason why I said that the meme was funny, not serious when it used the word écriture femina, is because the meme is not trying to fit anything into theory. It's basically trying to make fun of the fact that, at least that's the way I'm reading it. I mean, that might be ideological, it might be political, and it comes from my conviction that there is nothing called écriture feminine. It's got nothing to do with the human body. It's got to do with a human being using language. And writers are good enough to cover their gender. I mean, someone like George Eliot did it for years. So, how it's connected with the essential idea of women's writing, which is essentially connected to their gender and essentially connected to the body, I think you actually question that with everything that you said, or at least you have the ability to question it, because I really liked your answer about, how if you don't know about Hegel, it's not esoteric. It makes you curious if you have a brain to think with. So I do agree that it's educational. That is, education is open to anyone who is willing to be educated. You can't force something down someone's throat and say, we are educating you. That's called didactic. So if you're making, that distinction, which you are, at least in your answer, you implicitly seemed to be making, which I think is very appreciable, then I think you can just carry a little forward and think that the memes are, or at least this particular meme is making fun of it, the whole idea of écriture feminine, which, personally, and I wouldn't like to kind of impose that on you, but personally, I think deserves to be made fun of for exactly the word that you used, which is essentialism. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your appreciation, ma'am.
Nisha, I think there's one more question in the chat box.
Yeah, as Panna says, that it is whitewashed, and the whole concept has come from these white women only. But I think the way that the other South Asian girl bloggers that I mentioned in the end, they also are kind of using that same form to, express their own experiences. So I guess even though it has come from white women from these Western countries who have all sorts of privileges, but I think it can also become a tool for the non-whites to, like, use it. And since it's a very versatile form, right? And yeah, I think, yeah, that's all I can say. I don't have much to say. And thank you to Sonali and Shubhra for their comments as well.
Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, Nisha, it was a really nice presentation and also very different from what we come across every day. I just wanted to know what is your opinion since you talked about girl blogging and you connected Helen Sixu's idea, or rather, what we, if we can call it a plea to the current generation. So, if we have to connect that with memes, do you think that the memes in this day and age are very empowering for the female audience, whether it is the females that are the creators or the audience, the consumers of these memes. Because at the end of the day, memes are something that are laced with humor. So even if we're talking about the obstacles we face as women in this patriarchal world, we are expressing those with dark humor, if I can say that, since that is something that's trending in this digital age. So the world of internet is something that has become another den for the females, where they feel that they can truly express themselves sitting behind the screen without immediately being ridiculed and interrupted by the patriarchal audience. So, is this not another setback in a way?
I think that about memes being empowering. I think they are empowering, but not in like a very extravagant or a very grand sort of empowerment. Like these are very subtle, quiet, ways of empowering yourself, right? And it may be very short lived also, but then there is that sense of your feelings or your experience that is being so clearly articulated by someone else who you haven't even seen. So there is this shared sort of sense, like, oh, that we are all in this together. I am not alone in what I am feeling, and somebody else in some other corner of the world also feels the way that I do. So empowerment in that small or in that very seemingly insignificant, but also like it can a kind of like kind of bring us little difference in your life. So in that manner, I think empowerment takes place. And also, since I am like an active consumer of such things, it has almost become like a ritual, like every day. I see what these women bloggers have put up, or like what experience that they have had recently has been channeled into this, and I like reading them. So it's like almost like reading literature only, or like this almost like reading somebody's diary periodically, and then that kind of forms a sort of a parasocial relationship, which doesn't really require so much effort from your side to like maintain or anything, but like it's like this small digital space that you kind of share with somebody else, and then even if it's like for a few minutes in a day that you just go there and like you consume that media and you like have a laugh about it, or like feel understood and seen. So I feel empowerment or a sense of uh, belongingness in that way can be felt. And I could not. I'm trying to recall your second question, but you said something about it being a setback or something, right? Uh, yeah. So about that, I feel like as women and being subjected to whatever patriarchy subjects us to, I feel like the way we live our lives is like a constant kind of figuring out how to work within the limits that is already present in our lives, right? So I feel like this is just another form of kind of adapting to whatever the external structures have imposed us with. And it is not really a setback, it's just a different mode of adaptation. And oh yeah, I wanted to mention this thing that I came across, and it's called sad girl theory by Audrey Wallen. And this can also be seen as an example of girl blogging on the internet. And what she did was like she would also very cleverly try to satirize this whole female experience through images and captions and all. And I think which the content which she has deleted by now, it was like in 2014 or 15, but then there is so much media coverage on this that you can definitely look up to, and maybe that would answer your questions as well. Like it's not really a setback, but it can really become a tool that these women are using to, you know, to tackle all the patriarchal rules and stuff. So yeah, that's all.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that answer, which was really very well given, I think. But I just want to say something completely different, which is that anything which is a tool is not of itself either good, bad, or anything. It's just technology. Ultimately, how human beings use technology is the end of the story, or maybe the beginning of the story. And I was reminded of this because when you ask that question about how it might be setting us back, it's true that there is only a niche audience for this, and that niche audience is not white. But nobody said that, white people's rules need to be followed if you do this. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is I just met some people who started a blog about body hair, or the absence or the presence of it, and connected to the ideas of beauty, and then went on to have workshops and created a zine out of what they felt, which went back on the blog. So, I mean, I'll repeat that technology is there. If we understand how to use it, then nothing is preventing us from using it the way we want to, except, of course, censorship, which is still politics. So it's not that technology is apolitical or necessarily bad politics, rightist or any such thing. That's all. Thank you. And thank you, Nisha, for bringing up all of these things and saying them clearly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Maybe we should thank Nisha and
Yeah.
everyone else who has to be thanked and finish. Yeah, go ahead.
If there aren't any more questions, I'll invite Aratrika to give the vote of thanks. Aratrika?
Yes, Anupama, thank you. On behalf of the Research Forum of the Comparative Literature and India Studies Department, English and Foreign Languages University, I would like to thank the speaker, Nisha Chetri, for bringing girl blogging as a discourse into academia and presenting it us for today. I would also like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to Professor Ipshita Chanda for her constant support and encouragement in conducting such sessions. Thank you, Anupama, for hosting and managing the session meticulously. Lastly, a big thank you to all the attendees, which includes alumni as well as students who are currently pursuing their degrees, for engaging enthusiastically and being present till the end. I hope you have a pleasant evening.
Thank you everyone for attending this.